Dr. Bashir, I presume, is another difficult episode to do. The reason is because it's 2 episodes, one great, the other awful, and we start with the awful one. I have nothing against poor Rom, yet as much as people object to my comment that his character is best summed up as, that is the aura he presents.
You claimed Rom fixed your replicators. Rom's an idiot. He couldn't fix a straw if it was bent.
Here he's trying to come up with a way to come onto Lita, but the biggest obstacle to Rom is his own mouth. And I don't just mean the fact that it looks like he goes to the same dentist as the guys in Deliverance.
One night.
Rom. You're a regular poet. Rom fails to say anything remotely romantic, engaging, or even above kindergarten level before departing, so Quark takes some time to talk about her boobs instead. If only Rom had stayed, he could have learned something he could have said. Much as I enjoy a downward-angled shot of Chase Masterson's cleavage, it's about time we get on with the A-plot. Dr. Zimmerman makes his first appearance, meeting Bashir because he wants him to be the template for the new long-term medical hologram, a kind of EMH for situations where a real human doctor would be a drain on resources.
You're not talking about replacing real doctors.
No, of course not. Why is everyone so worried about holograms taking over the universe?
The episode's already got a great mystery to explore, but adding Robert Picardo as Surly Louis Zimmerman injects a great new dynamic into the episode and helps the struggling B-plot at least slightly. The rampant ego of his character is very much on display, and is especially amusing if you remember our look at Lifeline.
It is nothing less than a shot at immortality. The original EMH program will probably still be in use for decades to come.
It's got the same bright future as Betamax or Web TV. But the LMH is an even grander and more ambitious take. It's not just going to look like Bashir, it's going to be programmed to have his full personality, from his personal background to what foods he likes. The Chief's impressed.
Wow, think of it, Julian. If this thing works, you'll be able to irritate hundreds of people you never even met.
Wow, that'd be like being Justin Bieber. The 2 plots merge somewhat as Bashir takes Zimmerman to Quark's for another downward angle shot at Lita's cleavage. Maybe it's just the way this is framed, but Chase may just be the first woman I've ever seen who actually has the proportions of a comic book superheroine. The thing about Bashir as a character was that he came into the show with no real blueprint. They needed a doctor character because they've always had a doctor character. So he's had a lot of contradictory backstory elements cropping up over the years, things that seem odd or even downright suspicious. For instance, in last season's Homefront, there was no one on Earth that he wanted to talk to, and so when he asked Zimmerman to leave his parents out of the whole thing, it raises further suspicions, and in fact motivates him to bump them to the head of the line. Well, this leads to a yaoi girl's dream come true. 2 Siddigs and 2 Picardos on screen at once. Let the fanfic begin! EMH's information and protocols are transferred into the LMH, but the EMH is not known for its humility or generosity and takes all this rather personally.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
Oh, that's original. He doesn't even look old enough to be a doctor.
Then again, the LMH is so bereft of warmth he even insults Bashir, and he's supposed to be Bashir. Time to get to work on those interviews, which is just about every member of the crew, giving their own unique perspectives on Bashir.
Could you be more specific? You're not being very helpful.
O'Brien's is the best, though, with him terrified that Bashir might hear what he has to say. Only we discover that he's talking about him like he's a down-to-earth saint. But that's the nature of their friendship. The last thing the Chief wants is Bashir to be able to tease him about that, especially the way some people assume that they have that Turk-JD relationship going. When Zimmerman uses the interview to ask Lita out, we shift back to the B-plot, I'm afraid. Poor Rom. Let me tell you how sad it is, and sad does not even begin to cover it. While they're on the date, Rom gives a discreet scene, looks around, and I literally had to pause the episode to collect my thoughts after feeling shame by proxy. Ferengi have really sensitive ears, and so Umox is effectively a hand job. And Rom has admitted to doing it on himself before, and it's treated as if he's been masturbating. Rom has been so dragged into the loser category that I actually thought for a moment he was looking for a place to secretly jack off while watching Lita. Finally, I realized what was actually going on was that Rom was trying to focus his ear so he could listen in on her date. Now, let me tell you, how pathetic a person are you when people watching you say, oh, thank God, he's not playing with himself while looking at her. He's just stalking her. What a relief. Rom tries to muster this small victory into enough motivation to ask her out, but he again suffers defeat by falling on his own sword. Rom, please, stop reading from the Harry Kim Guide to Dating and try to grow a dick already. And Lita, this is the 24th century. Women are allowed to ask men out now, even if the qualification for manhood in this case is only met by a technicality. The only thing more uncomfortable than this is the arrival of Bashir's parents. Zimmerman figures that this is a perfect opportunity to hit on Lita again, and since she answers him wearing only a bath towel, it's moving more and more in the direction of me doing my porno music impression again.
By the way, if you're trying to impress me, you succeed.
Well, don't be too smug, Doc. She's pining after a guy who can't form a coherent sentence without a running start. And she herself has a brain like a squirrel, despite her assertion to the contrary. In fact, when she hears that she could maybe run her own cafe on Jupiter Station if she wants, she comes running out without remembering that she's naked. And before you assert that that's Bajoran culture, she quickly covers herself once she realizes what she's done. So, the dilemma is now before her. Should she stay on DS9 or leave forever for Jupiter Station? It's a pretty big decision for a brain used to sorting out how to store walnuts for the winter. At the Bashir estate, the discomfort reaches Picard levels as we start to see that his father is a man who seems to be just drifting through his life, unable to stick with or take responsibility for anything. It gets worse when the subject of the interview comes up, and Bashir's concerned that his parents might slip up and reveal his little secret. I might be biased to be on Julian's side because, while I don't have a deep, dark secret like him or needed to deceive anyone, I know all too well what it's like to have to rely on someone not screwing up something when their defining characteristic is that they're an idiot. There's nothing quite like that sinking feeling when they say with total sincerity, I took care of the problem while you kept the others busy. And you want to slap them and say, I wasn't keeping them busy. I was fixing the problem by talking, like people do when they're fucking normal. What's really amusing about all this, though, is the timing. All this is happening just after Bashir had been locked up in a Dominion prison and replaced by a changeling for a month. Could you imagine if this had all happened a week or two earlier? The changeling refuses and it'll draw some suspicions. But if he says yes, then suddenly Bashir's parents are there going, don't worry, son, we'll keep your deep, dark secret quiet. Oh, yes, the secret. Which one are you referring to? What do you mean, which one? The huge one. The one that could completely ruin all our lives. Which one? Yes, I was just kidding around. But if we were to put it into exact words of what not to say, what would those exact words be? Are you sure you're really a genius? We soon see his parents talking to the LMH, but not realizing the situation. They promise that they'll in no way reveal that Julian Bashir is a genetically engineered freak in defiance of the laws of both man and nature. Don't worry, our lips are sealed. Well, Zimmerman and O'Brien were observing all this, wanting to see how the LMH would respond to an unexpected interaction, and now the secret's out. Bashir's royally pissed off over this, and the chief finally gets past all the blame stuff to the real issue.
Zimmerman is going to file a report saying that Dr. Bashir is unsuitable for computer modeling because of his suspected genetically enhanced background. Do you know what's going to happen when that report gets back to Starfleet Medical?
And Bashir's body language says it all. Of course he knows. There probably hasn't been a week where he didn't think about it at some point, where he wasn't wondering whether today would be the day when the door to his sickbay would open and someone would walk in, point a finger at him, and announce, "Arrest that fraud, he's inhuman." What it must have been like to look at someone like Dax, same age, but given an enhancement that was approved of by everyone, so that they could all look at the genius, while he had to pretend not to understand what everyone was talking about sometimes, just to not give himself away. Maybe that was why he couldn't pursue his tennis career, no matter how much he wanted to.